From the early 1970s to the mid-1980s, a monster moved in silence through California's suburbs. He crept into homes, found his victims, and left behind only whispers in the dark. They called him many names: the Visalia ransacker, the East Area rapist, the original Night Stalker. But for decades, he had no face, no name, just terror. This is the story of how one of the most elusive serial killers in American history was finally unmasked after more than 40 years. This is the Golden State Killer. It began innocently enough, or at least it seemed to. In 1974, residents of Visalia began reporting a string of bizarre burglaries: drawers rifled through, underwear stolen, photos rearranged. Nothing of major value taken, except for one thing: privacy. The intruder was methodical. He slipped through sliding doors and unlocked windows, always leaving behind just enough evidence to prove he'd been there and that he could come back anytime. Locals dubbed him the Visalia ransacker. But things escalated in September 1975. That night, the ransacker tried to kidnap a teenage girl. Her father, Claude Snelling, heard the commotion, grabbed his gun, and ran outside. He was shot dead on his own front lawn. The killer vanished into the dark. And just like that, the Visalia ransacker disappeared. But in reality, he'd only just begun. A year later, 150 miles north in Sacramento, a new predator emerged. He targeted middle-class neighborhoods. He broke in while families slept. And his crimes were far more sinister than burglary. The East Area rapist struck over 50 times between 1976 and 1979. His victims were women, alone at first, then later couples. He'd tie the man up, place dishes on his back, and whisper, "If I hear one plate fall, she dies." He wore a ski mask. He carried a gun. But most disturbing of all, he talked. He whispered threats, muttered to himself, sometimes cried. Victims described him as small, athletic, and terrifyingly calm. And every time police thought they were close, he vanished again. By 1979, the East Area rapist moved south to Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Orange County. But this time, he wasn't just breaking in. He was killing. His first known murder was in 1979. Dr. Robert Offerman and Deborah Manning, found bound and shot in their Santa Barbara condo. The killer had escalated. He had evolved. Soon after, more couples were found murdered in eerily similar circumstances, tied, gagged, and killed execution style. Different jurisdictions, different nicknames, and no shared DNA database. They were chasing the same ghost without knowing it. In 1986, the nightmare culminated in the murder of 18-year-old Janelle Cruz in Irvine, California. She was bludgeoned to death inside her home. Her murder will be the last known attack linked to the killer. Then silence. He vanished. For decades, detectives followed thousands of leads. Every suspect led to another dead end. Every clue seemed to fade into nothing. It was like he'd evaporated. But DNA testing in the late 1990s revealed something shocking. The East Area rapist and the original Night Stalker were the same man. The realization horrified investigators. He hadn't just terrorized one region, he blanketed the state. By the early 2000s, the case had gone cold, colder than ice. Detectives were tired. Evidence was boxed away. But one man refused to let go: investigator Paul Holes. In 2011, Holes re-examined the DNA profiles from the old crime scenes. Technology had advanced. There was hope. He built a genetic profile, not a match, but a genetic fingerprint. Then he tried something unprecedented, uploading it to a genealogy website. It wasn't a police database, just a public site for people tracing their ancestry. And that's when it happened. A distant relative popped up. A family tree began to form. And at the center of it was a name no one expected. In April 2018, detectives surrounded a quiet suburban home in Citrus Heights, California. The suspect was 72 years old, a former police officer, a father, a neighbor. His name was Joseph James D'Angelo. When police swabbed his car door handle, the DNA was a perfect match. 44 years after his first break-in, the Golden State Killer was finally caught. Inside his home, they found trophies, items stolen from victims decades ago. They found his old police equipment. And chillingly, they found recordings of his own voice. He'd been hiding in plain sight, living an ordinary life. But the story doesn't end there, because investigators believe there may be more victims. Unidentified crimes that match his MO, and files sealed so tightly. Even decades later, they haven't been released to public. In 2020, Joseph DeAngelo stood in the courtroom, frail, silent, eyes hollow. He pleaded guilty to 13 murders and 50 rapes. He offered no apology, no emotion. But then, something happened that no one expected. During his sentencing, DeAngelo muttered 2 words: "I did all that." Investigators later revealed that the day before his arrest, surveillance caught him talking to himself in his backyard, apologizing to an unseen Bonnie. Bonnie was his ex-fiancée from the early 1970s, the same woman he once tried to kidnap after she left him. It was the breakup, some say, that triggered the rage he unleashed for decades. But here's the thing, Bonnie disappeared from public records in the mid-1980s. No one seems to know where she went, or if she's even alive. When investigators raided DeAngelo's home, they discovered hundreds of items cataloged and bagged, some from known crime scenes, others with no record at all. Among them was one particularly disturbing find, a notebook labeled Punishment, filled with names, addresses, and coded notes dating back to 1969. Several entries corresponded to unsolved murders that were never officially linked to the Golden State Killer. So now the question remains, was Joseph DeAngelo truly the beginning and end of California's nightmare? Or was he part of something even darker? Something that started long before Visalia and may not have ended in 1986? Because somewhere, locked away in sealed evidence boxes, lies the answer. And what's inside those boxes might rewrite everything we thought we knew about the Golden State Killer.